All right, everybody. It is my pleasure to bring to you not only the guy who was one of the first to wear the iconic mask, he's also someone in the entertainment industry who has worn many hats. So we will dive into all of that. Please welcome Sinister Creature Con, Mr. Nick Castle.
Got my Diet Coke.
Well, welcome, sir. You having a good time?
No.
Not. Off to a great start. There you go.
There we go. Yes, I'm having a great time. Thank you.
This man over here to my right, he held at one point the record. 42 years for reprising a certain role. He also held the record for longest time, just under 40 years, that he could put his name on the iconic character, Michael Myers. When you look back at that, I know it seems like in doing research, you and John were buddies before he decided to make this movie. He paid you the outstanding wage of $25 a day to get in that. And it was, I think, a lot of horror, guys, whether it be Michael, Leatherface, Jason, like the majority of the guys have like a stunt background. Did you how was it that you came to be Michael?
No, I had no stunt. I could fall. Personally, I'm pretty good at falling, but no, I had no stunt work background. This was just simply the fact that John and I were filmmaker friends. We went to film school together at the University of Southern California. California, at least. Yeah, there we go. And he and I would do movies together. I worked on his first feature film. It started as a student film called Dark Star. I don't know if anybody saw that. It's a good one. Yeah. I was the beach ball monster in that one. I was behind that little fake tomato that they made out of a beach ball. So, but when John was doing the movie, it was being shot only about a mile or so from my house. So I went down to say hi as they were doing pre-production at the set. And he said, are you going to hang around while we do this? And I went, yeah, that's a good idea, because I wanted to be a director, which I eventually became. It'd be good. And so why don't you just put on this mask, and then you're here all the time anyhow, and then you can do this role. I don't have to worry about that anymore. That's really how it went. There was no audition. There was no let's see how scary you look with mask on. There was nothing like that. And it just happened to be. So it was very, coincidental.
Your gait, your body language, all of that, you see it vary, I think, especially in Friday the 13th and Halloween, where Michael's body language will kind of shift throughout the series after you get so many movies in. It's hard to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
But yours was so iconic, and it's almost like boa constrictor, where you're shrinking the gap, but it's just these slow, methodical movements. Was that a blend between the two of you? Did you kind of take the ball, run with it? Did he know what he wanted? What was that like?
Yeah, no, there was not much of a conversation in terms of what John wanted. I mean, whatever I was doing, he seemed to like. So, and whatever I was doing out of whatever instinct, watching, I didn't have any, conscious thinking beforehand. I got to get into character. No, I didn't have to do anything like that. I just, thought, he's stalking people, so he's not running.
Yeah.
And so I'll just do it kind of smooth.
Right on.
Yeah.
The thing that I had never knew up until recently, it was funny because I learned this knowledge, and then right after that we announced that you were coming here. But you are not the Michael in the shot where she rips the mask off.
No.
What went behind having two? I get the thought of having two in case something were to happen to you. He's got a backup or something. But What was the thought of having not you in the mask for that scene?
Well, think about it. First of all, they had cast Michael as a little boy,
Right.
when they take the mask off at the very beginning. So I look nothing like that guy.
That's like, okay.
And I have a different ethnic look and stuff like that. So we just, wanted to go in a different direction. Besides, as he told me at the time, Nick, you're too handsome for that.
No.
And so I decided, no. And so that was really the reason, I think. And the actor that they cast was, on the show for that one day. So that's the way they did it. Also, there are various people that wound up putting on the mask for various shots in that movie, like Tommy Lee Wallace, who designed the mask. I don't know if you guys know Tommy, he's a great guy. Lives in Northern California, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, Halloween 3 director.
Yeah, Halloween 3 director, very talented guy. He did the one really great scene where he breaks through the closet. And he knew because he was a production designer, which means he does the sets. He knew where he scored with a knife, where you were supposed to put the fist. So he said, let me do that, Nick, so you don't hurt yourself. That kind of thing was done.
That's
and then, I didn't fall off the back of the second floor of the building. That was a stunt man.
Right.
And the other one was, you remember there's a shot where it looks like the dog is being killed? So that was the dog trainer doing that with the outfit on. Takes a village to make it.
But with you finding that role for $25 a day, the horror genre also found what is like arguably the most believable and most lovable final girl in Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Especially in Halloween 1. Like, you are like in it with Laurie to the end. Like, that performance, especially for her first major motion picture, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
What was it like working with her then and now, fast forward to not too long ago, to know that you're going to get to have certain cameos and get to don the mask again alongside her in the new trilogy? That must have been a blast and a half to start and then come all the way back.
It was a lot of fun. First of all, Jamie was, only I think 19 or something, and it was like maybe her first feature film or close to her first feature film, and was from the start very professional. You really gave it her all. Didn't have any of the sense of, she's a daughter of two major motion picture stars. Didn't have any of that feeling of being a prima donna. Just a great woman, and has grown into this stately, amazing, strong, human being. And it was funny, like I would see her from time to time over the years, various reasons, friends having some kind of get together or whatever. So, and I remember seeing her while I was shooting a movie and she was on the same set. I mean, same location. So we'd seen each other from time to time. But when we did 2018, she saw me when I got on the set for the day I was going to be doing my little cameo, and she screamed across the lot, "Castle!" And then it was like some kind of movie magic as we both ran to each other, gave each other a big hug, and she said, "This is fucking nuts, isn't it?" And of course it is, after whatever, 40 years or something of doing the thing to come back and have it be such a major event, and then become very successful. So that was quite a surprise and a lot of fun.
What was that like to Obi-Wan Kenobi, so to speak, and you're taking the new face under the mask for that trilogy? You get to cameo, but then you're also like training. That it reminded me all the backstage stories of them getting a new Chewbacca, and the guy being so thankful that he got to learn from Peter Mayhew. It must have been cool to like know that Michael Myers is in good hands. So to speak.
Well, yeah, now James Hugh Courtney does all the work in the new ones, and he does a great job. He's become a very close friend. We're just, I just love meeting him. We have a blast when we're together. But that being said, they were shooting the movie by the time I got there, so James had to kind of figure it out on his own. he has some great stories. If you ever get a chance to meet him or go to one of the conventions with him, it's worth it. You know, he has a very elaborate way of explaining how he had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, me coming into the role of Michael Myers at the beginning was, so what? You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't an iconic. It wasn't a movie that I thought was ever going to be a hit. Even
Mm-hmm.
I was just hoping John would get another job after that. And but for James to come into it, you have to give it some thought because, you know, you're filling the shoes of something everyone loves. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? You know, he looked at some of the stuff I did, of course,
Sure.
kind of picked up on some essence and ran with it. And so, as far as being the mentor, I couldn't take any credit for that other than him taking a look at what I did and kind of giving some similarity, I guess.
Before we get to your guys' questions, I wanted to ask you, because the fact that you touch all three of these avenues, the film school I went to, they made sure that you touched and tried to learn all three of these avenues before you graduated. And so you wrote, going from acting to writing, you wrote one of the best, like, believe in magic again kind of stories of my childhood when you wrote Hook.
Oh, yeah.
That, you seem surprised, but I'm telling you, man, when that movie came out when I was a kid with Robin Williams, and the way that, you know, he wasn't Peter anymore, he was this disgruntled old man, and throughout it, he goes back to Neverland, the whole Rufio is now the leader of the Lost Boys, to Hook himself, like, the whole thing was really, really cool. So, like, what about Peter made you want to write that movie?
Well, I can't take credit for the initial concept. That actually came from the screenwriter, James Hart. And he actually got it from his son. They were reading Peter Pan and his son said, did Peter Pan ever grow up? Did he ever grow up? And
Yes.
And you know, Dad said, "Stupid question, kid." And then he went over and wrote, "This is a great idea. I'll pretend it was mine." So when I was going to originally I was going to direct the movie.
Oh, okay.
And so the studio put me on as the director, kind of overseeing the writing of the screenplay.
Okay.
Because there was no screenplay yet. It was just that idea, a few ideas. So I really helped James, you know, develop the story, develop the characters, have a, you know, beginning, middle, and end.
Sure.
And so we did a really good draft, and that's what eventually became the picture that Stephen wound up doing. And yeah, a lot of people really love that picture. It's nice to be a part of it.
Did you imagine Robin as Peter when you guys were throwing ideas?
I actually was still on the picture as the director, when we sent it to Robin.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was one of our ideas, both Robin and Dustin. I was with a certain agency, and some, you know, they do these packaging so that, you know, it somehow helps if everyone's in the same agency. They can kind of make it all work. And they said, who would be a good, in my agency, who would be a good Peter, who would be as this and that. So we came up with those names and we threw it out there, and then,
That's perfect.
yeah.
The grand finale, of course, before we graduated, was going into our thesis film. We had to learn how to direct one. And you, speaking of my childhood, have directed some of the movies of my childhood that were like cult classics of going to school and talking about. Was that always the end goal? Like, did you always know that you wanted to direct? Because you also have background with like music too,
Mm-hmm.
which is wild that John Carpenter's your friend because he's got his music too.
Right.
But was directing always your end game? Like, what did you think maybe you were gonna wind up doing something else, like big time? Like, what did you want to do?
Well, yeah, I always wanted to direct. My father was a choreographer, dance director in Hollywood. He worked with all the big stars back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, like Gene Kelly and Judy Garland and Fred Astaire and all those classic ones. He worked with them. I would be on set for some of them, and I always liked the way that, you know, figure out how the camera would go. Where did they put the camera? Why did they put it there? And then he did all these variety shows on TV, so I always liked that. So I was primed to do something in the movie business. But I also liked to sing. So I wanted, high school and college, did some rock and roll group kind of stuff. And even after film school, there was a period of time where I was concentrating more on music. John and I, for instance, in college would write music together for our films. And so I always knew John had a great facility for that. I didn't know he was going to be able to do the Halloween theme, and the Halloween score is one of the most iconic scores in motion picture history.
Yeah.
So I am so proud of my friend, to put that together, and it's
like that and Jaws.
yeah, man, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So I'm jealous of him. I hate him, but I love him.
What is your favorite aspect of directing over acting or doing something else?
Well, first, it's a misnomer to say I was ever an actor. This is it. This was it. Halloween, and then onward to writing and directing. My favorite thing to do about directing is actually writing and directing, because I've done that about 3 or 4 times, where you start with the concept all the way to fruition of a movie. It's quite a big sandbox to play in, and it's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of anxiety as well, because you're dealing with being the person that's responsible for a multi-million-dollar investment by some studio. So there's that, and now that I think of it, I'm glad I'm retired. There's a lot of pressure, but it's quite a lot of fun. I was very lucky to be part of that world.
Well, you're a very humble man when you say you're not an actor, because your body language, sir, we were talking about before you got up here, was scary, and that is acting, right? And that terrified me. The step between the shrubs or behind the shrubs.
Yeah.
You and the damn laundry. Yeah. Every year we go to haunted house at Universal. Every time they do Halloween, you can count on the scene with Michael in the laundry, and every damn time it's scary. And
That I contend that mask is half the battle with something like that. Just so much of as an audience, you can kind of read into that blank thing and just be scared of. You don't know what the hell he's thinking or where he's even looking.
Sure.
And that's again my pal Tommy Lee Wallace has to be credited for that. And he was John's best friend out of high school.
that is crazy. You guys are just like a super small world.
Yeah.
One thing that we mentioned was Jamie Lee. Of course, it wasn't just you versus her. You also had a great antagonist. You were the great antagonist. The great protagonist that was trying to hunt you down is the iconic Donald Pleasance as Dr.
Right.
Loomis.
Right.
And everything from the diction of his voice to his body language to of course he's a great actor.
Yeah.
What was that like, your exchanges with him?
Well, unfortunately, there weren't many. If you think about it, most of his scenes are done not with me in the same vicinity,
Sure.
which meant that I was either not even there or I was in the background.
Hanging out.
He was a little standoffish. I think at the time he thought he was, he got a job doing a stupid horror film. That's the impression I think. And he going, I hope this good. I'll be in and out, and I'll be out of here.
Sure.
Not that he was. He was still a very nice fellow, but
Yeah.
there were no real interchanges there. I mean, unfortunately, I wish I would have known now to have had those kind
Right.
of conversations with him. I knew at the time how much I liked him, because he was in some of my favorite movies, Knife in the Water, Polanski movie, and what's the one? The Second World War movie where they're in the camp?
Oh God, I can picture it in my
James
mind.
Garner and Steve McQueen.
Great Escape.
Great Escape. He was great. You remember he goes blind and stuff?
Yeah.
That's a neat one.
My last one before we'll open it up to Q&A for you guys, because geez, I just realized I'm crowded for this. There are a lot of people who want to see.
I think I've seen all of you at the table.
What's your favorite kill in the original Halloween?
Well, I never liked Bob, so it was good getting rid of him. I'm going to see the actor, I think, at the next at Crypticon.
Yeah.
In Kansas City next time. So I'll try to get a little stab in.
Hey, if you have a question for Mr. Castle, raise your hand. We'll come to you with a microphone.
Mr. Castle, just a quick dive away from Halloween. I'm sorry, guys. I wanted to ask the question. You directed Last Starfighter, an amazing movie. You worked with actors such as Robert Preston. I was hoping you might be able to give us maybe a memory or an example of what it was like working with him.
Robert Preston played a character named Centauri in a space opera that I did released in 1984 called Last Starfighter. Robert Preston, if you don't know him, was a tremendous actor. His major role that he's known for is, The Music Man, where he played Professor Harold Hill. And so the reason he was cast in this is that there is a character that we met that is a huckster, that is trying to find a starfighter to help win this intergalactic war, and he's like an agent, and he's going around to all these different worlds trying to find it and cajole these people to be soldiers basically. And he has this video game that he's used as a way to find out if they have the talent to become these soldiers. So the writer was the one that came up with the idea. He said, Nick, think about this. We were thinking casting. The Music Man in outer space. Music Man in the character, if you don't know, is a huckster, the same character, and he was a fast-talking wheeler dealer, and it's a tremendous role. And we went, oh my God, that's the best. Can we really get him? Yeah. And he read it, and he saw where we were going, and just loved the idea of being in this movie. He was a really good trooper. He's a great actor, really a lot of fun. Did some long nights with, where we had to knock on the door and get him up at 4 in the morning or something. We're ready to go, Mr. Preston. I think the one thing that I said to him once, he said he'd never heard this before because he was a very broad actor. I said, Robert, that was really good, but can you be a little bigger? And he went, I've never heard anyone ask me to do that. So, yeah, he was a great guy. Thanks for the question.
Anybody else? Right here with the hat.
So Halloween Ends claims to be the final time the original cast will ever be involved with Halloween. Will Nick Castle ever be involved with the shape coming forward, or maybe can we expect to see Nick Castle's Halloween in the future?
Oh, yeah. See, that's what I think we should all send a letter to Universal and Nick Castle directs himself. Well, sure. I had so much fun with it. Now, I was only on the set for maybe a week in each of these, and just waiting around for my shot or shots. But I had such a ball. Like I said, become good friends with James who did the thing. And it's great. I've been retired for about a decade. So, except for this kind of work, which isn't really work, let's face it. It's a lot of fun. I don't get on the set anymore, so it's been fun. So I would say yes, I'd be interested in hearing the next iteration of this and put in my 2 cents. The one thing I did do as well is that David Gordon Green liked me as a director and writer from knowing other films like we're talking about. And he would send me the script beforehand and say, I want your ideas, I need your ideas.
Oh, that's cool.
Give me, and we did stuff like that, And so I had a lot of fun with that. I really felt like, some of my input was worthy.
I know John consulted a lot too, so
Yeah.
it's cool to have you and John be consulting him, and then you get cameos, Jamie Lee's in it. It really was like a whole reunion for you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
it was.
We're coming to you right now.
My question is, you as a director, you visited so many different genres. I mean, people know you as The Shape and they know your work in horror, but that's a genre that you've never touched as a writer and director. You touched comedy, you touched science fiction, fantasy.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite genre of storytelling that you've engaged with?
You know, I told you my dad was a choreographer, so I always loved the musicals. It's a very different world than, unless you got, I should have done Rocky Horror. That would have been the best. But so I've always been interested in that genre. I did a quasi-musical, not a breakout into a song one, called Tap, with Gregory Hines and Sammy Davis Jr. It's about tap dancing. My dad was a tap dancer when he was growing up, so it has a lot of, you know, interesting personal things at stake for me. But like you say, I love all the genres. You know, I grew up going to film school where we would have people like John Ford come into the school and show us a bunch of Westerns, and we'd talk to them about that. Then we'd have all these other people, you know, these Hitchcock movies. So I learned within the genres, you know, and I loved all of those. And then growing up in the 60s, you had all the French New Wave, and I don't know if you guys know all the history of film. It's remarkable and worthy of your attention if you haven't done it. So I just love it all. It's just the best story that comes along and comes into my head.
Yeah.
I've had several horror film ideas that just never went into any place. And the one that's the closest that you may not have seen, supposed to be coming out for the first time in DVD, was my first movie called Tag: The Assassination Game. Linda Hamilton's in it. Her first role is a feature role. Bruce Abbott, who was in Reanimator, for you fans of Reanimators, in it. And Bobby Carradine, who's a great actor. So that was about a killer in a college setting. So hopefully that'll come out and you guys can take a look at that.
That's pretty cool. It's going to get released
After all these years.
You never thought it probably would have at some point.
No, I mean, I thought it would be released by now because the person or the people that are doing it asked me to do one of those commentaries. You know?
Okay.
But I haven't done it yet, so we'll see.
Okay. Anybody else? Got time for a couple more questions.
Mr. Castle, how do you feel knowing people dress up as the character you played and watching the movie that you starred in, well, technically kind of starred in? How does it make you feel knowing people, in a way, adore your psycho character?
How do I feel about the people that do like the sequels?
The people who dress up as the character.
Oh, just dress up?
who
You mean just
played
for
as,
fun?
And the people who admire the character you were.
I think you're crazy.
Yes, we are.
Especially you. No. I see so many people have so much fun with this character, especially, you know, around Halloween, obviously. So many of the people that come to the table tell me about, their fathers and grandfathers and stuff like that, and going, I have so much fun in the neighborhood, scaring all the kids. So it's great because that mask does so much for the fear part of it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, that simple outfit like that you're wearing. But I think it's so much fun. People have a lot of fun with that. I've seen, you see little kids with the mask. It's almost as scary when they walk. So I'm happy that people have so much fun with the thing, and it's all tongue in cheek, of course. No one, I hope, is really thinking they want to emulate Michael's real world antics. But I think I see those things as cathartic movie making. Get through the chills, the thrills, and the scares. And we can all blame it on Michael.
Hey man, I can talk to you all day. You really are the grand slam. You are an actor, no matter what you say, writer, director. You dabbled in music. You talk about how you just retired not too long ago. I mean, closing the book on what is your career is something, especially to us horror fans, that is something so special, man, that it's absolutely a book that isn't just closed and put on a shelf. It's a book that's may be closed, but it's absolutely put on display somewhere. So I thank you. This is an honor to talk to you. Everybody, Nick Castle. Thank you, everyone.
Jimmy, you want me to take it for you?
Yeah, please.
I got you. I'm everywhere.
Yes, you are.
You all went this way and that way, right?